Rising, and welcome to another segment of CLG Viewpoint. I am so honored and blessed that you're here with me today. Another beautiful day. I am Cindy Lorraine Grais, and it's Wednesday, March the 26th, 2025. Today we will be covering a video on DIY chicken coop start to finish. Yes, you can build your own chicken coop and have some beautiful fresh eggs if you choose to. International news: 5 factors behind the decline of U.S. military shipbuilding. 12,000 Chinese farmers join in growing potatoes in desert. Local news: 2 multi-story apartments buildings proposed in North Nanaimo. Family speaks out after ALS patient allegedly robbed in own home by caregiver or care worker. 2 shellfish harvesters hit with nearly $10,000 in fines over fishing. A sense of relief: Charlie's bi-weekly medication funded for another 3 months. And now I start off with the clearing. A sage clearing. A sage clearing, I use a sage stick, and what it does is I clear my work area, my segment, and your area as well from low entity energies, negative energies. So what you do is you start with you light up your sage stick, which is a herb, and I really like the smell of it. And now, to all low energy entities, you are healed, forgiven, enlightened, and sent back to your perfect place, escorted by my spiritual guides. And so it is. I'm divine love, and I am divine gratitude. Now on to building your own chicken coop. Pretty awesome. I have a chicken coop here at the farm, and we have many chickens and fresh eggs daily. It's pretty cool. Now, on to international news. Five factors behind the decline of U.S. military shipbuilding. Sputnik News, March the 23rd, 2025. U.S. business media have cited the USS Constellation frigate as a prime example of problems plaguing the industry. With the warship slated for delivery in 2026, just 10% complete and already over budget. Here's why turning the situation around won't be easy. American military shipbuilding peaked in the 1980s, with 150 major warships displacing over 1.2 million tons added to the fleet during the decade, including 3 Nimitz-class carriers, Los Angeles-class attack subs, Ohio-class SSBNs, and Ticonderoga, Arleigh Burke, Spruance, and Perry-class destroyers, cruisers, and frigates. After the Cold War ended, the U.S. cut its Navy in half, closed shipyards, and lost skilled workers against the background of the country's broader deindustrialization and transition to a service economy. In the 90s, large shipyards, including Avondale, Fore River, Todd Pacific, Philadelphia, Charleston, and Mare Island, were closed, downsized, or converted for civilian use, creating monopolists among remaining producers like Huntington Ingalls Industries and General Dynamics, and jacking up contract costs. For example, while $12.1 billion was allocated to shipbuilding in the 1984 Pentagon budget, $36 billion in 2024 dollars. Last year's budget was $32.8 billion, with far less to show for it. Modern U.S. shipyards are often straddled with aging infrastructure, impacting construction of new vessels and the introduction of new technologies. The loss of skilled tradesmen has taken a particular heavy toll, with Hill's Newport News Yard building the Gerald Ford class carriers constantly facing a lack of welders, electricians, pipe and ship fitters. A House Armed Services Committee hearing this month found that tough working conditions and wages, often just a couple dollars more than those at fast food joints, are making it difficult for the industry to retain workers. Naval engineers are also underpaid and underappreciated. Design issues have turned some vessels like the Zumwalt destroyer, Ford-class carriers, and littoral combat ships into costly nightmares, shrinking acquisition of Zumwalts from 32 to 3. And LCS warships already being phased out after a decade or less of service. The result? Major cost overruns, program delays, and bureaucracy, slowing acquisition to a crawl, even as manufacturers collect bigger and bigger paychecks. Personal thoughts. What happened to all the money that was allocated for the shipbuilding industry? Do you think there should be a full forensic audit under natural law? 12,000 Chinese farmers join in growing potatoes in the desert. An annual output of 1,700,000 kilograms produced in the desert. And here is the video. Enjoy.
China was one of the countries with the most severe desertification in the world, with a desertified land area of 2.622 million square kilometers, accounting for 27.4% of the total land area. These vast deserts provide a steady stream of material for the frequent strong winds in the north, leading to frequent sandstorms and seriously affecting regional life safety and agricultural production. Sandstorms often bring disastrous consequences, causing casualties and disappearances of people and livestock, as well as large-scale damage to crops, making people living here miserable. Faced with this severe challenge, China has begun vigorously implementing desertification control and afforestation projects since the new century to prevent and control desertification and sandification problems. In order to effectively control desertification, the Chinese government has established 41 comprehensive demonstration zones for desertification prevention and control and promoted desert ecological protection nationwide. Since 1988, China has started tree planting projects in desert areas. Currently, they have successfully planted more than 100 billion trees in the desert and effectively improved approximately 280 million acres of desert land. At the same time, China has also implemented closure and protection measures, covering 26.58 million acres of desertified land, effective management of more than half of the country's controllable desertified land. These efforts have led to the historic change of green advancement and desert retreat, and contributed valuable experience to global desertification control. But in comparison, it is even more incredible that the Chinese began to grow food in the desert. If you have seen a map of China, you may have noticed that there is a yellow area in the northwest of China, which is one of the 4 major deserts in China, the Muas Desert. This desert was once one of the largest sources of dust in China, causing sandstorms to surrounding cities and rural areas every year. It was also one of the poorest areas in China. But in recent years, Chinese scientists have begun to systematically manage and transform this sandy land to make agricultural production possible in such an environment. After years of scientific research and practice, this desert is undergoing a remarkable transformation. For 1,000 acres of potatoes have been planted in the Muas Desert, turning a piece of yellow sand into a green hope. But what is even more shocking is that in 2023, China announced that it had achieved unprecedented success in growing potatoes in a desert environment, with the yield per acre reaching an astonishing 430 kilograms, calculated over the entire year. These potato fields can produce up to 1.7 million grams a year. This case of agriculture provides a valuable lesson to the world. It proves that through technology and innovation, humans can achieve sustainable food production even in the most unlikely of lands. If this model can be promoted on a global scale, it will make an immeasurable contribution to improving food security, preventing the expansion of desertification, and even improving global climate change. So why can the Chinese grow potatoes in the arid desert? In fact, the rainfall in the Muas Desert is extremely low, with an average of only 250 to 440 milliliters per year. Such climate conditions are not suitable for growing any plants at all. But starting in 2016, Chinese scientists and engineers began to try to plant drought-tolerant saplings in this barren desert, using minimally invasive planting method technology, which minimizes interference to the environment and at the same time maximizes the likelihood of plant survival. After seeing the success of planting trees, local farmers began trying to grow crops in this desert. After many experiments and improvements, they successfully grew potatoes in this extreme environment, but the result was very underground. In order to further confirm the possibility of growing food in the desert, China sent a team of scientists to the Muas Desert in 2018 to conduct more in-depth soil and climate research. Scientists went to the site and tested results showing that some areas of the Muas Desert do have the potential to grow crops. So in October 2018, the local government announced it would invest $350 million in an ambitious project to convert desert land into farmland. Starting in 2019, about 12 agricultural experts and local farmers have worked together to embark on this desert management challenge. Their goal is to make these barren deserts capable of growing potatoes. At the beginning of the project, they selected 20 acres of land for experimental transformation. But if you want to grow food in the desert, the most indispensable thing is water. So Chinese scientists adopted flood irrigation, an ancient and effective technology. Whenever rivers swell and floods are imminent, farmers will guide the floods to the desert areas in an orderly manner. In this way, the sand is not only flooded with water, but also silt is deposited, infusing the desert soil with essential nutrients and thus making cultivation possible. In the end, thanks to the unremitting efforts of scientific researchers, potatoes also took root and sprouted in this desolate desert, achieving surprising success. In the first phase of the 20-acre land experiment alone, they successfully harvested 3,000 kilograms of potatoes, with an average yield of about 150 kilograms per acre. Although it was about 5 to 6 times lower than planting on ordinary farmland, this result has been proven. Their method is feasible. With the results of the first phase of experiments, Chinese scientists began to expand the scope of desert planting, covering nearly 4,000 acres of land for growing potatoes. They not only promoted the development of technology, but also actively encouraged farmers in surrounding villages to join this revolutionary agricultural activity. According to statistics, nearly 12,000 farmers participate in this project. By 2023, these efforts achieved significant results. This former desert area produced more than 1.7 million kilograms of potatoes in 1 year, setting an impressive world record. This is not only a huge breakthrough in agricultural production, but also a model of ecological restoration and sustainable development. But in comparison, it is more difficult to grow potatoes in ordinary land, and the yield is higher. But why does China grow potatoes in the desert? In fact, after the potato planting project achieved remarkable success, local farmers began to try to grow more types of food crops, further broadening their agricultural activities. This not only helps stabilize the quicksand in the desert, but also improves the economic income of local residents. The annual income of some farmers even exceeds $10,000. After desertification in the Mua sandy land was effectively controlled, potatoes became the preferred crop in these areas. This case also inspired China to use this comprehensive management system in other desert areas, such as the Coop Desert, to improve the ecological environment of this desert area. More importantly, Mua sandy land used to be an endless sea of sand, and the living environment was difficult. However, through a series of comprehensive management measures, including flood diversion, afforestation, and agricultural planting, the sandy land began to show new vitality. Today, nearly 94% of Mua sandy land has been effectively managed. This change is not only an ecological success, it has also greatly improved the quality of life of residents in more than 30 surrounding villages. With desertification under control, not only the living environment of local residents has been improved, but agricultural production has also been effectively improved.
My personal thoughts: amazing technologies and food security for the planet. Local news. 2 multi-story apartment buildings proposed in North Nanaimo. Project would bring 106 apartments to intersection of Turner Road and Lindley Valley Drive. 2 buildings are being proposed for a North Nanaimo neighborhood. One a 4-story apartment building and one a 6-story mixed-use building, adding up to a combined 106 housing units. The proposal was discussed at Nanaimo's Design Advisory Panel meeting on Thursday, March the 13th, with a presentation by Daniel Smith, architect at DHK Architects. The mixed-use facility would be on the corner of Turner Road and Lindley Valley Drive, with 63 residential units, while the 4-story apartment building would be fronting Lindley Valley Drive with 43 housing units. This area is very walkable to support the project density we're suggesting in the area. There's many parks, there's stores, there's community centers, and schools. Bike paths, including the multi-creek path trail network just across the street, Smith told the panel. The 6-story mixed-use facility is planned to include what he referred to as an amenity for neighborhood residents, currently proposed as a cafe. The 2 buildings are connected by an underground parking lot, which contains just about 40% of the required parking. The rest are above ground, intersected by a ramp leading to the underground stalls. To move forward, the developers require a variance for a minimum front yard setback, with the proposed building's east side yard sitting at a 1.5 meters, half of the required 3 meters. Overall, the panel gave several recommendations, none of which involved the setback, which had the majority of the panel's support. The panel did, however, recommend Glass railings for the balconies reduced surface parking, more green space, more outdoor amenity space, different paving for the cafe's patio, and street access to the first floor. Other recommendations included adding more Douglas fir trees to replace those that the build will remove. My personal thoughts. Good news. More housing. But what about the housing for the homeless? Under natural law, all nationals have to have a home, as homelessness is illegal in Canada. It's time to move quick, fast, in a hurry, and provide homes for the homeless. What do you think? Family speaks out after ALS patient allegedly robbed in own home by care worker. Yes, robbed but in her own home by a care worker. Global News, written by Rebecca Law and Heidi Petrasek. With close to 1 million Canadians requiring care at home, personal care workers are in an important position of trust. But a Nova Scotia woman is speaking out and calling for better oversight after her sister was allegedly robbed in her own home. Patty Nogler's late sister, Kathy Newman, was diagnosed with ALS, a terminal nervous system disorder, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, in 2023. Last year, RCMP charged a woman the family had hired to care for Newman with fraud after her credit card and debit cards were allegedly used without her knowledge. How could somebody do that? We opened her home for them to come in and treat her with compassion, empathy, and they didn't, said Nogler. Newman had used a wheelchair and was eventually left unable to speak. The first thing she lost was the use of her hands and then her legs, said Nogler. She was in a wheelchair and she could only talk with a tablet. So they had a headset on, and on the screen she could move her head a little bit and go to the letters and say what she wanted to say. Nogler, a continuing care assistant herself, identified her sister's need for around-the-clock support. The family used a Facebook group in their research for a personal care worker. They hired one, and everything seemed to be going well at first. But then they began receiving phone calls from the fraud department. Nogler and other family members ignored the calls at first because they believed they were fake. Finally, my niece answered the phone and spoke with them, Nogler said. She hung up and then called them back, and then that's when they realized that somebody had gotten a hold of my sister's debit card and 2 credit cards. Nogler says they checked Newman's credit card accounts and found fraudulent purchases totaling $7,000. Newman died last November at the age of 62. The following month, Brittany Ann Rodding, 30 years of age, was charged with 3 counts each of credit card theft and fraudulent credit card use. Rodding was arraigned in Kentville Provincial Court on Tuesday. Now, the sister's story is not isolated. 3 other personal care workers in Nova Scotia also faced charges of fraud over $5,000 in a separate incident after being accused of stealing from a woman with ALS. They were assigned to help. The 3 were arrested in December of last year and are scheduled to return to court on May 12. According to the Amherst Police Department, the woman they were caring for had discovered a large amount of money missing from her bank account. And on to the video.
Nogler is sharing her family's story in hopes of protecting others.
Because I don't want this to happen to somebody else's family.
After her sister, Kathy, 62 and battling ALS, was allegedly robbed by her own home care worker.
How could somebody do that?
Kathy was diagnosed with ALS, the terminal nervous system disorder, sometimes known as Lou Gehrig's disease, in 2023. It left her in a wheelchair, eventually unable to speak.
She took it very hard. She did.
Extra personal care workers were hired and all seemed well. Then came the phone calls.
And it was fraud department. And you're like, okay, yeah, click.
The calls persisted, so they checked Kathy's credit card accounts and say they found fraudulent purchases totaling $7,000. RCMP have charged one of Kathy's caregivers, a 33-year-old woman, with 3 counts each of credit card theft and fraudulent credit card use. Kathy died last fall.
It breaks my heart. Breaks my heart.
And hers is not the only case in Nova Scotia. 3 other personal care workers also face charges of fraud over $5,000 in a separate incident. That victim also had ALS and has also since died. Continuing care assistants aren't regulated in Nova Scotia like physicians or nurses. As with most other provinces, they only have to be registered, and only one of the accused in these cases is listed.
The registry's not a regulatory body in any way. It's not a place where you can file a complaint and have it investigated.
The head of the province's ALS Society says those tasked with oversight in the healthcare system are under-resourced, leaving it largely up to families to practice prevention.
Don't have your debit card out, a bank statement out, and you need to check your bank account on a weekly basis.
The provincial government says home care agencies are responsible for criminal and reference checks on their employees. It adds families are encouraged to do the same if they're hiring on their own.
Please make sure you check them out.
Nogler hopes to raise awareness among those who rely on care at home, who should never have to worry about a crime like this. Heidi Petrocic, Global News, Wilmot, Nova Scotia.
My personal thoughts. Absolutely horrendous. A horrendous ordeal that the patients went through. Care workers who are there to care and help the people who are ill are stealing off them. All will be held accountable under natural law. 2 shellfish harvesters hit with nearly $10,000 in fines over fishing on Vancouver Island. Written by Adam Chan. 2 recreational shellfish harvesters were handed nearly $10,000 in fines and lengthy fishing bans after they were caught collecting hundreds of shellfish over the daily limit off the east coast of Vancouver Island last year. On May 25, 2024, Rosemary Elam of Nanaimo and Diosa Dela Cruz of Richmond were found to have harvested hundreds of oysters and clams in the Baines Sound Recreational Shellfish Harvest Reserve between Union Bay and Buckley Bay. In total, they were found with 151 oysters, well over the daily limit of 12, and 262 Manila clams, of which the total daily catch is 60. Moreover, the vast majority of the clams, 222 of them, were considered under the legal size limit. The shellfish were found following an inspection by fishery officers in the area. In August 2024, the Nanaimo resident Ellen was handed a $4,500 fine and a 2-year fishing ban for daily quota violations and for failing to comply with the conditions of her license. More recently, the Richmond resident Dela Cruz was fined a total of $5,000 for retaining more than the daily quota for clams and oysters and for fishing without a BC Tidal Waters sport fishing license. She was also banned from fishing for 1 year at Courtenay Provincial Court on February 14, 2025. It is everyone's responsibility to know the rules before they engage in any fishing activities and to play their part in ensuring that BC shellfish populations and their habitats are protected and sustained, said Fisheries and Oceans Canada in a release on Tuesday. It adds that the legal size limits are in place for Manila clams to make sure that they have spawned at least once before they're harvested. so that they can repopulate the beach, and notes that valid fishing licenses are important for fishery management. Unlicensed fish harvesting can deplete the resource, remove the opportunity for other licensed harvesters, and threaten the significant economic and social benefit to coastal communities, including recreational fisheries, tourism, the livelihood of commercial harvesters, and traditional food sources for Indigenous people, said the DFO. My personal thoughts. Under natural law, the nationalists, that's the people of Canada, can fish and harvest fish and seafood to provide for their families at no cost. The DFO are going directly against the written law under natural law by fining these nationalists. Something to check into. Natural law. A sense of relief. Charlie's bi-weekly medication funded for another 3 months. Check News, written by Laura Brogham. Another uncertain chapter in Charlie's mom's fight to continue access to life-sustaining medication for her daughter has come to an end. Though a permanent solution is still up in the air, on Monday, March 24th, Jory Fales, Charlie's mom, posted an emotional video to Facebook in which she said the last treatment the BC government had committed to funding would be later this week. I just wanted everyone to know that we have not heard anything, and it is now only 3 days away from Charlie's last infusion, an emotional Fales said in a video posted on Facebook on March 24th. I'm really starting to feel like we're letting her down, and it's scary and so sad. I'm still holding on to some hope that we're going to get some last-minute information, but I'm really scared and I'm sad, said the West Shore mom. Check News reached out to BC's Ministry of Health on March 24th to ask about the deadline the family was given for the funding. The review is still underway. Any updates would be shared with the family first, said the Ministry of Health. As previously committed, funding for the treatment will continue while the review is underway. Early Tuesday morning, Fales updated that the Ministry of Health did, in fact, reach out to her. Just received a call at 8 a.m. this morning that they have decided to extend Charlie's infusions until June 28th. While the review appeal is continued, Fales said in a follow-up video. We feel this is a little bit of a safety blanket, but we know that this is not over. But our last infusion is not on until the 27th anymore. I will keep you posted, but for now, the fight continues, and I feel a sense of relief. And also, not because this isn't over, but I'm taking this moment, and I'm very grateful that her infusions have been extended. In February, Fales had been told after a review that funding for the drug her daughter relies on would be ended. Charlie is the only child in BC that has been diagnosed with the CLN2 form of Batten disease, a rare genetic disorder that affects fewer than 20 children in Canada. She gets biweekly injections of Brineura, Brineura, which is a critical drug that helps manage the symptoms of the illness. These infusions cost roughly $1 million per year, and Fales said the message from the Expensive Drugs for Rare Disease Committee, EDRD, was that Charlie no longer meets the criteria for the drug. Then after days, yes, days, of continued pressure, the BC government ordered a review of the decision to be undertaken and that the province would fund the drug while the review is underway. And here's a video of Charlie's mom.
I just received a call at 8 a.m. this morning that they have decided to extend Charlie's infusions until June 28th. while the review appeal is continued. So we feel this is a little bit of a safety blanket, but we know that this is not over. But her last infusion is not on the 27th anymore. And we will continue to take her to her hospital to get her medication. I will keep you posted, but for now, the fight continues, and I feel a sense of relief and also not because this isn't over, but I'm taking this moment and I'm very grateful that her infusions have been extended. Thank you, everybody.
What a beautiful mom. My personal thoughts. The med beds need to be rolled out immediately so that Charlie and other children who are battling illnesses can get the healing they require. Yes, our VIPs. They need healing. I have a video on the med bed.
And waking up healed. Say hello to med beds. Med beds are revolutionary medical devices that look like regular beds but work wonders. Using advanced technology, they scan your body, detect issues, and start the healing process. Think of broken bones, chronic pain, or even diseases being treated while you rest. It's like having a personal doctor, nurse, and surgeon all in one. Just lie down, relax, and let the med bed do its magic. This is the next big leap in healthcare, making treatments faster, safer, and more comfortable. So, are you ready to sleep your way to better health? MedBeds are bringing the hospital to your home. Stay tuned with Nexus Wellness and Recovery LLC for new game-changing technologies. Till next time, Earth Strong.
What if the future of healthcare was not in pills or surgeries, but in the advanced technology of the Galactic Federation's medbeds? A concept that seems to be plucked straight out of a sci-fi novel, medbeds represent a leap into the future of health and wellness. The Galactic Federation's medbeds, as the name suggests, are not your average hospital beds. They are a revolutionary concept in healthcare technology, harnessing advanced healing methods that sound more like science fiction than reality. These medbeds utilize a combination of light and sound waves, along with other undisclosed technologies, to scan and diagnose the human body down to the cellular level. Once the medbed has identified any issues, it can then treat the patient with pinpoint accuracy, addressing the root cause of the illness or injury rather than just treating the symptoms. The medbeds are not just about healing physical ailments. They can also address mental health issues, from anxiety and depression to more severe conditions. By using advanced brain mapping and other techniques, the medbeds can identify and treat these conditions, offering a holistic approach to health. But how does it work, you might ask? Well, the medbeds operate by creating a resonance field that aligns with the body's natural healing abilities. This resonance field can then stimulate and accelerate the body's healing process, allowing for a faster and more efficient recovery. The Galactic Federation's medbeds represent a new frontier in healthcare. They offer a non-invasive, holistic approach to health and wellness that could revolutionize the way we approach medicine. With their advanced technology and capabilities, medbeds could potentially eliminate the need for invasive surgeries and harmful medications, paving the way for a healthier and more holistic future.
The medbeds are here. It's time to roll them out. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. Our VIPs are in need. I am Cindy Lorraine Grais, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to be with you here today at CLG View Point. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you feel compelled to, please share this forum. Today, Lao Tzu quote, enjoy. Have a truly wonderful day, and see you on Thursday, March 27, 2025. Until we meet again.